Good afternoon. After the last demonstration, I'm going to do a 20-minute Shavasana. I'm representing those that are over 70 years old today. So it's really an honor for me to be here. I've been teaching here for, almost 30 years. And so this is my hometown, and it's great that you're all here. Thanks for being here. So I wanted to give you a little background on how we could put the words yoga and championship together and not make it an oxymoron. So a little history for yoga to start with. In Pakistan, 5,000 years ago, in the Indus Valley, there was the first civilization that recorded yoga poses in little terracotta reliefs, in little statues that were just found in the 20th century. So when you hear that yoga is 5,000 years old, they're referring to those archaeological findings out of Pakistan. But the yoga poses that we see here today, and what you see, many of them are actually quite modern. Many of them are from the 19th century, and the scriptures of yoga, hatha yoga, of the asana, generally range from about 14th century to 17th century. So when you hear that yoga is very ancient, the philosophy and the culture of yoga is very ancient, but these yoga poses are actually quite modern. And today we're building literally an integration between very ancient cultural philosophies and modern 21st century Western culture. This type of championship was first started by Vishnu Ghosh, a man that was actually the younger brother of a very famous 20th century yogi named Paramahansa Yogananda. And if you've never read the book, I highly recommend everybody read Autobiography of a Yogi. So it's one of the great books on yoga it's ever been written. And Yogananda first came here to the United States in 1920. As a country, United States, we've always, in the early part of the 20th century, we were very, frankly, quite paranoid of other cultures. And by 1924, we established an Immigration Act that limited the number of yogis and Indians to the country to only 200 per year. That immigration law was only lifted in the 1960s. So it's one reason that when we have this seeming surge of yoga interest and popularity, part of it is that it was even completely unknown for most people in the United States until the 60s and 70s. Vishnu Ghosh was a guy that was interested in weightlifting and bodybuilding. In the early part of the 1900s in India particularly, the Indian culture, the Indian mindset in the 19th century and the early 20th century was one where they were feeling quite the oppression of the British rule. And in order to sort of build their nationalism and build their pride for their country, they started to basically work out. They started to do much more physical-oriented practices, which included weightlifting. The first sort of Mr. Universe, the first guy that started to popularize weightlifting and bodybuilding, strongly influenced the Indian culture in the early 20th century. So Vishnu Ghosh was a guy that was very influenced by this. And at the same time, his elder brother is one of the great yogis of the 20th century. Paramahansa Yogananda was like a classical yogi, and his guru, his teacher, was an incredible yogi himself. These guys had supernatural powers, and it's not just a science fiction story. This is the real deal. These guys had control over their body, they had control over their mind, they had control over a lot of things in their environment. And they were fundamentally very God-oriented. They were very devotional to God. So their practice of their powers was very spiritually oriented. So you have these two brothers, you have quite a difference between one brother who is considered a quintessential yogi in his own right, and Bishnu Ghosh, who was really working out, but he was also, I really believe, a guy that was devoted to God and was really a good man. When he came here to the United States, part of the way that he got attention, just the way he also did in India, he would do stunts, like this was in the 1940s and 50s, he would like pull a car with a rope on his back, or he would lay down and put a board across his body and have elephants walk on him. So he would do crazy, for us it would be more like it'd be like a circus act. But what it did was it inspired people to start to look at the yoga in a way that they felt like, all right, it's at least maybe not having somebody step on them with an elephant, but that they could start to work out and that they could have a different level of physical fitness. Bikram was a student of Bishnu Ghosh, and Bikram started practicing when he was just a little boy. And in his first competition, I think he was very young. I think he was even under 10. He won. And he won for successive years. And that's where these yoga championships come out of. Now, my background, I started studying yoga when I was just 13, so it's been almost 40 years of study. And in this type of study, my background is very much traditional to the yoga that precedes much of the physical orientation of yoga, much more of meditation practice and focusing on awakening consciousness. So when we think about if you're going to be successful in yoga and if you're going to be successful in your life, what do you want? And I think if you ask every student of yoga, and now today there are like 20 million people practicing yoga in North America in a variety of styles, but if you ask any of these different students, what do you really want? What's your intention for being here? Whether you're in a hot room and you're just sweating, or you're in a very low-lighted environment, burning incense, whatever. And today they have yoga classes. We have yoga classes in the churches here, in the YMCA, and so on. The common intention for everybody, all students, is everybody wants to be happy. Everybody wants to be free. They want to be free of their back pain, free of their knee pain. They want to be free of their stress. They want to be free to feel like they connect more with their family and their friends. They want to be able to feel free to connect to their environment so that they can be happy and to celebrate life. So for me, it's like whatever route works. If it's just a physical practice and it leads you to feeling better about yourself, and then you're feeling better about all those around you, then for me, that's a successful practice. But fundamentally, I look at it in a more traditional sense, that the body and the mind and the emotions are just different forms of the same energy, the same consciousness. And as we do these practices, we literally open up an energy inside ourselves that we start to know more directly. We start to see more directly the connection that is between all of us. Despite all the differences and all the diversity, especially here in America, we start to feel a common spirit. No matter if whatever culture, religion we come from, we recognize in our heart that it's one spirit. This comes directly not from reading a book and not from necessarily somebody telling us, but from an inner awakening that can be practiced with your religion and with your culture and with your history.